I still remember the sound of her laughter, sharp, careless, like a piece of glass falling on marble. "Grandma, this thing looks like it came from a flea market," she said, holding my wedding ring between her perfectly manicured fingers. I smiled. I always smile when I feel pain. It's the only armor left when you're old, and everyone thinks your silence means weakness. She didn't see how my hand trembled as I took the ring back. That ring had outlived love, war, and lies, and now it was about to outlive my patience, too. That afternoon, the sunlight was pouring through the kitchen window of my little house in Savannah. The air smelled like cinnamon bread cooling on the counter. I had baked it because she liked it as a child, back when she still called me Grandma Joe instead of Josephine. Funny how love changes names before it disappears. She was sitting at the table scrolling on her phone, laughing at something on a screen that had replaced the world. "Emma," I said softly, "this ring was your grandfather's gift. He carved it himself when he couldn't afford jewelry. See that engraving inside? J&H 1956. It was our promise." She looked up, that impatient look of youth in her eyes. "Grandma, that was like 100 years ago. I can't wear something that old at my wedding. Ethan's family will think we're broke." Her words sliced through me with the quiet precision only family can manage. I wiped my hands on my apron, pretending I hadn't heard the tremor in my own breath. "It's not about money," I said. "It's about roots." But she was already back on her phone. Ethan, her fiancé. I'd met him twice. Polite. Too polite. The kind of man who keeps his smiles polished for the camera but never reaches your eyes. There was something about him that made me uneasy. The way he touched her arm a little too tight, or how he called her my investment as a joke. She laughed, of course. Love makes even cruelty sound like affection. I didn't tell her what I knew. Not yet. That night, when she left, I went to my bedroom and opened the small wooden box at the bottom of my dresser. Inside, wrapped in an old lace handkerchief, were 2 rings. Identical at first glance, but only one had the engraving that mattered. The other one, the one Emma had mocked, was a twin I'd kept hidden for over 30 years, a ring that once belonged to someone else. Someone Ethan would never dare to forget. I ran my finger over the faint letters inside, A&D 1991. My chest tightened. I hadn't touched it since the day its owner left it on my porch, shaking, crying, begging me to keep it safe. "He doesn't deserve to keep anything that carries love," she had said. Her name was Anna Delaney, and she was Ethan's mother. That ring had waited decades for this moment. The next morning, Emma returned with her mother, my daughter, to discuss wedding logistics, or as they called it, brand planning. The way they talked about weddings these days felt more like marketing than marriage. They wanted to display vintage details to impress guests with authentic charm. So when I quietly placed the ring box on the table and said, "It's yours, Emma, for something old," they both gasped. Her mother clasped her hands together, fake delight lighting her face. "Oh, Josephine, that's perfect. You see, honey, vintage is in style again. You'll look timeless." Emma hesitated but smiled. "Fine. Maybe it'll do for the rehearsal dinner." I smiled back. "No, darling, wear it for the ceremony. It'll bring luck. Trust me." She rolled her eyes. "Okay, Grandma, if it makes you happy." It did, more than she could imagine. As the weeks passed, the house buzzed with preparations, invitations, fittings, endless talk about menus and floral arrangements. I stayed quiet, watching, baking cookies for the planners who forgot to eat, mending a torn veil when no one else noticed. That's what old women do. We make sure everything works, while everyone forgets who made it possible. But at night, when the house went still, I would open my old journal and trace the names written there. Anna Delaney, March 1991. Bruises, trembling, the last time she came here. I had been the only neighbor brave enough to help her. She'd shown up on my porch one night with a small boy in her arms and fear in her eyes. Ethan. He couldn't have been more than 5. I remember her whisper, If he grows up like his father, God help the girl who loves him. Now, that girl was my granddaughter. Fate had a strange sense of humor, and I had learned to laugh with it. But laughter, like revenge, is better served cold and quiet. 2 days before the wedding, Emma stopped by to pick up her veil. She wore a silk dress that shimmered like sunlight. "Grandma," she said, "Ethan and I decided to include a short family blessing during the ceremony. Would you like to say something?" I looked at her, at that beautiful face that still had innocence hiding behind arrogance, and I said gently, "I'll speak through the ring, dear. Sometimes words aren't enough." She laughed. "Whatever that means." I didn't explain. I didn't need to. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments where you're watching from. The morning of the wedding came with the sound of church bells and rain that smelled like spring. The sky cleared just as the guests arrived. I sat in the second row, not in the front, of course. Modern weddings have no room for the old. We're decorations now. But from where I sat, I could see the altar, the flowers, and Emma's trembling hands as Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger. For a moment, everything was perfect, until Ethan froze. His smile faltered. His eyes widened as he turned the ring slightly and read the engraving inside. The color drained from his face. From my seat, I saw it all. The twitch of his jaw, the flicker of recognition, the ghost of a memory he'd buried decades ago. He looked toward me, directly, almost pleading. And for the first time, he looked afraid. I just folded my hands in my lap and smiled, the same soft smile he must have seen years ago on a different woman's face, because he knew, and I knew he knew. That was the moment he realized whose ring he had just placed on my granddaughter's hand. The moment when the past he thought was buried came back, wrapped around the finger of his bride. And as the music swelled and applause filled the church, I whispered quietly to myself, "Welcome home, Anna." The applause echoed like thunder inside that church, but to me it sounded like rain on an empty roof, beautiful, distant, hollow. Everyone thought the trembling in my hands was from age. It wasn't. It was memory. I had seen that same pale look on Ethan's face once before, on his father's porch, a lifetime ago. The reception was held at one of those countryside estates people rent to pretend they own class. White tents, string lights, champagne fountains, the illusion of happiness with a price tag. I kept mostly to myself, sitting at a small table near the corner. No one noticed the old woman with the quiet smile and the secrets heavier than pearls. Ethan avoided my eyes all afternoon. He kept adjusting his cufflinks, pretending to listen to toasts. Every now and then, he glanced at Emma's hand, at that thin gold ring gleaming like a curse under the fairy lights. I could almost feel the storm inside him, and that calm, cold part of me, the one grief carved long ago, simply waited, because I knew he would come, and he did. It was near sunset when the guests began to dance and the laughter softened into that tired kind of joy. He walked toward me, his polished shoes sinking slightly into the damp grass, his smile practiced, his eyes burning. "Mrs. Johnson," he said quietly. "Could we talk? Privately?" "Of course," I replied. My voice was steady, the same tone I'd used to comfort his mother when she sat crying in my kitchen 34 years ago. He led me toward the garden behind the tent, away from the music. The air smelled of wet roses and rain-soaked earth. For a moment, he just stood there, his hands clenched, jaw tight. "Where did you get that ring?" he asked. I looked at him, at the man his mother had feared he'd become, too confident, too polished, too familiar with cruelty. "Why?" I asked softly. "Does it look familiar?" He swallowed hard. "You know it does. Tell me the truth. Where did you get it?" "I kept it," I said, "after Anna left it with me." The name hit him like a slap. His eyes widened, and for a second, the mask slipped. The charm, the arrogance. All of it fell away, leaving only shock. You knew my mother? I did more than know her, I said. I hid her when she was afraid. I held her hand when she said she couldn't take another night of bruises and lies. I gave her bus money when she decided to run. He stared at me as if he was seeing a ghost. She's dead, he whispered. She was, I answered quietly, but not before she told me about you. He took a step closer, his voice breaking. She left me, you know. She just left. I woke up and she was gone. She didn't leave you, I said. She left him. And she left you because she couldn't save you from him. Not then. She hoped someone else would. He looked away, his throat moving like he was swallowing stones. Why give that ring to Emma? You wanted to humiliate me? No, I said, my voice calm as the evening wind. I wanted you to remember. I wanted you to look at her hand and think about what love should mean, what it cost your mother to believe in it. He laughed then, a short, sharp sound. You think I'm my father? I didn't answer. Silence is sharper than accusation. Ethan turned, running a hand through his perfect hair. She never told me about you. She didn't have to, I said. She left that ring with me because she wanted me to give it to the woman who would one day need to see the truth about you. His head snapped back toward me. You think I'd hurt Emma? I looked at him with that same steady gaze that used to stop my late husband mid-argument. I don't think, I said. I know, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But I've seen that storm in your eyes before, Ethan. You inherited more than a name. He froze. For a moment, I thought he'd strike me. His fists clenched, then loosened, like a man wrestling his own reflection. You're wrong, he said finally, almost a whisper. I love her. I hope you do, I replied, because if you don't, that ring will be the last thing you ever touch in this family. I left him there among the roses, standing like a man who had just heard his own verdict. Later that evening, when the guests were leaving, Emma came running to me, glowing with wine and happiness. Grandma, wasn't it beautiful? She said, showing off her hand. Even Ethan loves the ring now. He said it feels meaningful. I smiled, brushing a stray curl from her cheek. I'm sure it does, sweetheart. She kissed my cheek and hurried off, still blissfully unaware that her husband's past now circled her finger. I watched them drive away into the dusk, the taillights fading down the road. When the last car disappeared, I sat alone on the bench outside the hall, my hands folded in my lap. The rain had started again, soft and steady. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. Anna would have been about my age now. I imagined her somewhere peaceful, free of fear, smiling as her son's mask cracked under the weight of his own guilt. I closed my eyes and whispered, "It's done, Anna. The circle's closed." But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. Guilt has a way of spreading, like cracks in glass. And Ethan Delaney's reflection had only begun to break. The next morning was quiet, the kind of quiet that sits heavy on the chest, like the air itself knows something is coming. I woke before dawn, out of habit more than sleep. Years of early mornings with my late husband taught me that truth hides in silence, and if you rise early enough, you can hear it breathe. I made coffee and opened the window. The street was wet, the sky bruised with that soft gray that promises rain again. From across the yard, I could see Emma's car parked by her apartment building. The wedding flowers still hung on her balcony rail, wilting. I wondered if she noticed yet that Ethan hadn't come home that night. He hadn't. At 7, the phone rang. Not Emma. She would never call that early. It was Officer Reed from the Savannah Police Department, a man I knew from the neighborhood watch. "Mrs. Johnson," he said, his tone careful. "We had a report of a disturbance near the old bridge last night. Found a vehicle registered to a Mr. Ethan Delaney. He's fine. But could you come by? He asked for you. For me, not his wife. Me." I didn't ask why. I just put on my beige coat, the one with the missing button, and walked to the car. The drive took 15 minutes, but memory made it longer. That bridge. How many times had I stood there with Anna Delaney? How many nights had we looked over the edge and whispered about escape? She'd told me once, if I ever disappear, it'll be because I can't stand to see my son turn into him. Now her son was waiting for me under that same bridge. When I arrived, Ethan was sitting on the hood of his car, drenched and pale, staring at the river below. The police had left. Only his reflection and mine were left in the puddles. "You came," he said, not looking at me. "You called," I answered. He rubbed his temples, his eyes red. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that engraving. I thought maybe you'd made a mistake, that it was some cruel coincidence. But I looked her up. My mother. His voice cracked on the word. She really came to you, didn't she?" "She did," I said quietly. "She trusted me with the only thing she had left of love." He nodded slowly, rain dripping from his hair. "I was angry at her for so long. My father told me she was unstable, that she'd left because she couldn't handle being a mother. I believed him. I even defended him." He gave a bitter laugh. "Until I became him." The confession hung in the damp air like fog. "She was terrified for you," I said. "She hoped you'd find kindness somewhere else. But cruelty runs in silence, Ethan. It slips through the cracks of unspoken things." He turned to me then, his face hollow. "You think I'm doomed to repeat it?" "I think you already have." He flinched, but didn't argue. "Emma doesn't know. Not yet. But she will." I saw her look at me during dinner, like she could feel something was off. "Maybe it's better if I tell her everything before you do." I shook my head. "I'm not here to ruin you, Ethan. Life will do that on its own. I just wanted you to remember the woman who gave you a chance to be better." He looked down at his hands, trembling. "I don't know if I can be." "Then at least be honest," I said. "It's the only thing that doesn't rot." For a long time, neither of us spoke. The rain softened into mist, and I felt the ache of age deep in my bones. I thought of Anna's eyes, blue and tired, and how she'd smiled through the pain the last time I saw her. "Promise me," she'd said. "If he ever forgets what love looks like, remind him." I'd kept that promise. When I got home, the phone was ringing again. This time, it was Emma. Her voice was small, trembling. "Grandma, did you talk to Ethan?" "I did," I said gently. "Why, darling?" She sniffled. "He came home just now. He looked awful. Said he needed to tell me something, then started crying." "He's never cried before. I don't know what's happening." "Maybe he's remembering," I said. "Let him talk. Listen. Don't interrupt. Just listen." Silence stretched between us. Then she whispered, "You knew something, didn't you?" I closed my eyes. I knew his mother, and I knew love can either heal a family or destroy it, depending on how it's used. You're young, Emma. You still have a choice. When I hung up, the house felt heavier, quieter. I sat at my kitchen table and looked at the 2 photographs I kept taped under the lamp, Anna holding her little boy and Emma on her graduation day. 2 women from different times, both standing at the edge of love's shadow. By evening, I saw Ethan's car again. He came to my door dripping wet, his eyes red but clear. He didn't ask to come in, he just handed me the ring. "Keep it," he said. "It's not mine to wear." I took it, feeling the weight of 30 years of silence settle back into my palm. "What will you tell her?" "The truth," he said. "That my mother ran from a monster, and I spent half my life trying to prove I wasn't one." I nodded. "Then maybe there's still hope." He hesitated. "I don't deserve her." "No," I said softly. "But if you fight to, maybe someday she'll forgive what you inherited." He left without another word. That night, I placed the ring back into its box, wrapping it once more in Anna's old handkerchief. Outside, thunder rolled again, gentle this time, like applause from heaven. I whispered, "He remembers Anna. That's enough." But in the quiet that followed, another thought came, uninvited. And what if remembering isn't enough? Because guilt doesn't fade, it lingers. And I knew in my bones this story wasn't done. 3 weeks passed. The rain had given way to heat, thick, sticky southern heat that clings to your skin like regret. My garden bloomed early that year, as if unaware that something inside me had started to wilt. I hadn't seen Emma or Ethan since that night by the bridge. I told myself that was good, that silence meant peace, but peace rarely lasts in families built on unspoken truths. On a Wednesday morning, I was pruning my hydrangeas when Emma's car pulled up in front of the house. She stepped out slowly, her eyes hidden behind dark glasses. She didn't move for a moment, just stood there, holding herself as if afraid the world might tip sideways. When she finally walked toward me, her voice was thin. "Grandma, can I stay here a few days?" I put the clippers down. "What happened?" She hesitated, her lip trembling. He's not the same. Since you talked to him, he's been distant, quiet. But last night," she swallowed hard. "Last night he snapped over nothing. I asked him why he was drinking, and he just lost it. He didn't hurt me," she added quickly, "but his eyes, Grandma, they were like he wasn't there." I took her hands, cold despite the heat. "You did the right thing coming here." She nodded, tears brimming behind her sunglasses. "He said he keeps hearing her voice, his mother's. He wakes up at night saying she's calling him from the river." My chest tightened. Sometimes guilt doesn't die, sweetheart. It just changes shape. That evening, while Emma rested in the guest room, I sat by the window and watched the sky darken. Across the street, porch lights flickered on one by one. Ordinary lives glowing through curtains. Mine had always been less ordinary, I suppose, marked by ghosts that refused to rest. Around 9, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Mrs. Johnson?" The voice was low, strained. "Ethan." "I told you not to call here," I said quietly. "I know, She left. Emma left. I'm losing my mind." "Maybe that's what it takes to find your soul," I said. He didn't respond. I could hear the shallow rhythm of his breathing, the sound of someone pacing. "Do you believe in curses?" he asked finally. "No," I said. "Only consequences." There was a silence so heavy I could feel it pressing through the phone. Then he whispered, "The ring's gone." My pulse quickened. "What do you mean gone?" "I buried it by the bridge. I thought if I gave it back to the river, she'd stop haunting me. But now it's back." His voice cracked. "It was on my nightstand this morning." I said nothing. Some things don't need words. They just need belief. "Maybe you did this," he hissed suddenly. "You and your stories. You're punishing me, aren't you?" "Ethan," I said softly, "if you're seeing ghosts, they're the ones you made yourself." He hung up. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the handkerchief box where Anna's ring used to rest. It was empty. I hadn't touched it since the day he returned it. Had I forgotten to close it properly? Had Emma found it when she unpacked? The thought sent a chill down my spine. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments where you're watching from. The next morning, Emma was gone. Her bed neatly made, her suitcase gone from the corner. A note sat on the table in her looping handwriting. "Don't worry, Grandma, I'm going to fix this. He needs help. Maybe I can save him." I read it twice, then folded it carefully. The ache that filled my chest wasn't surprise. It was recognition. Because once, long ago, Anna had left me a note almost identical to that one. He needs help. Maybe I can save him. By noon, I was on the road to their house. The drive blurred past in flashes of sunlight and dread. When I arrived, the front door was wide open. The house smelled like whiskey and rain. Inside, Ethan sat on the floor, his head in his hands. The ring, Anna's ring, glinted between his fingers. Emma was standing a few feet away, pale but unhurt, tears streaking her face. "She wanted to leave," he said without looking up. I told her I'd change. I just needed her to understand. But then I saw this thing again, and I lost it. I stepped closer. "Give me the ring." He looked up, eyes wild. "She's here, you know, my mother. She won't stop staring at me." "She's not here, Ethan," I said gently. "That's just what guilt looks like when it puts on a face." He laughed, broken and hollow. "You think you know everything, old woman? You think you can fix me with your calm little speeches? You don't know what it's like to carry someone else's sins." "On the contrary," I said quietly, "I carried your mother's." That stopped him. For a moment, the madness drained from his eyes, replaced by confusion. "What?" I knelt, ignoring the ache in my knees. "She begged me not to tell you the truth, but maybe it's time, the night she ran. She was pregnant, Ethan, with your father's child. She lost it that same night by the river. That's why she left the ring with me. It wasn't just her marriage that died. It was everything she ever loved." He went completely still. The only sound was the faint ticking of the clock on the mantel. "She carried that pain alone," I said, "and you've been carrying the echo of it ever since." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then slowly, he set the ring on the floor between us. "I didn't know," he whispered. "I didn't know any of it." Emma knelt beside him, her hand trembling as she reached for his. He didn't pull away this time. I picked up the ring and slipped it back into my pocket. It felt lighter somehow, as if its purpose had finally been fulfilled. When I looked at them, my granddaughter and the broken man she'd married, I saw not victory, not revenge, but something harder to define. Maybe redemption, maybe ruin, maybe both. "Take her home," I said softly. "And if you ever hear your mother's voice again, don't run from it. Listen, it might be the first time she's proud of you." He nodded, tears spilling silently down his face. Outside, the wind picked up, scattering petals from the rose bushes along the porch. The air smelled clean again, like rain after lightning. As I walked back to my car, I glanced once more at the house. Behind the curtain, I saw Emma's silhouette leaning into him, her head resting on his shoulder. Maybe they'd make it. Maybe they wouldn't. But one thing was certain. Anna's ring had finally done what it was meant to do. It had made him see himself. And for me, that was enough. Still, as I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that some ghosts don't fade. They just wait for the next hand to wear them. A month passed. The summer sun baked the town into stillness, yet something in the air remained unsettled, like the moment before thunder, when the world holds its breath. I had almost convinced myself that things were finally quiet. Emma had called twice, her voice lighter, calmer. Ethan was in therapy, she said, trying to heal his generational trauma, as she put it. Young people love fancy names for pain. I told her I was proud of her and meant it. But peace, I've learned, has a way of arriving only to test you. It was a Tuesday morning when the letter came, a real one. No email, no return address, just my name in trembling blue ink. The handwriting was unfamiliar, thin and deliberate, as if written by someone afraid the paper might burn if pressed too hard. Inside was a single sheet of stationery that smelled faintly of lilies. The first line made my heart lurch. "You don't know me, but my name is Claire Delaney. I believe you knew my mother, Anna." My hands shook as I sat down at the kitchen table. Outside, cicadas screamed in the heat. I read on. "For years, I've tried to find anyone who remembered her. My father never spoke about her, and when I searched the public records, I found nothing. No death certificate, no obituary. I was told she left town before I was born. But I've always had questions. About the ring, about the river, about the night she disappeared. If this reaches the right Josephine Johnson, please write me back. I need to understand what happened to my family. I need to know why my brother believes our mother's ghost is still here." I read that last line 3 times before it sank in. Brother. My first thought was impossible. But I remembered Ethan's words by the river, that his mother had left when he was a boy, and my own confession to him, the one I hadn't fully explained. Anna had been pregnant when she ran. I had assumed she lost the baby that night. Perhaps I'd been wrong. I folded the letter carefully and sat for a long time, staring at nothing, the sound of the clock filling the silence. It was as if the past had found my address again, refusing to stay buried. That evening, I called Emma. She picked up on the third ring. "Grandma, you won't believe it. Ethan got a promotion. He's doing better, really. We might even move back to Atlanta." "That's good, sweetheart," I said, forcing my voice steady. "Is he home?" "No, he's still at the office." "Why?" "Just curious. If he calls, tell him I got a letter from someone named Claire Delaney." There was a pause. I could hear her breathing quicken. "Who?" "Apparently," I said, "his sister." The silence on the line stretched until it snapped. "He never mentioned a sister," Emma said. "I know." "Do you think—" "I think there's still something he hasn't told you," I interrupted gently, "and I think you should let me handle this one." That night, I wrote back to the address on the envelope, a small apartment in Charleston. I kept my words simple. "Yes, Claire, I knew your mother. I can tell you everything you want to know. Come to Savannah this Sunday. I'll be waiting at 10 a.m. at Magnolia Cafe." I didn't tell Emma. Some truths have to meet the right eyes first. Sunday came hot and shimmering. The cafe smelled of coffee and honeysuckle. I recognized Claire the moment she walked in. Tall, dark-haired, with the same uncertain grace Anna had. Her eyes were blue-gray, storm-colored. She looked like someone who had spent her life searching for ghosts and finally found one. "Mrs. Johnson?" she asked softly. I nodded. "Sit down, dear." For a moment she just looked at me, tears threatening. "You really knew her?" I did. She was brave and broken and kind in ways this world doesn't forgive. Claire clasped her hands. "Did she love him? My father?" I took a breath. She did, until it nearly killed her. She nodded slowly as if she had always suspected it. "I found some of her things once, old letters. One of them mentioned a ring." I reached into my purse and placed the small velvet box on the table. "This ring?" Her hand flew to her mouth. "You kept it. For 34 years. She stared at it for a long moment. "Ethan said it was cursed." "It's not cursed," I said. "It's heavy. There's a difference." She looked up, eyes wet. "I need to see him. He doesn't know about me." "Are you sure?" She nodded. "I've lived my whole life wondering if I had family left. If he's my brother, I need him to know." That evening, I called Emma again. "Tell Ethan to come to my house tomorrow morning," I said. "No questions. Just come." When he arrived, he looked wary but calmer than before. "Is everything all right?" he asked. "Come inside," I said. Claire was waiting in the living room, sitting on the couch with her hands in her lap. When Ethan saw her, he froze. She stood slowly. "Hello, Ethan." For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then he whispered, "That's not possible." "She was pregnant when she left," I said quietly. "This is your sister." He stared at her, his face paling, his breath shallow. How?" "Your mother wanted to protect what was left of her," I said. "A friend helped her deliver the baby before she vanished. She made me promise to stay silent unless one day you needed to remember what love still looked like." Claire stepped forward, trembling. "I'm not here to blame you," she said. "I just wanted to meet the only family I have left." Something broke inside him then. His shoulders sagged and his eyes filled. "I spent my whole life hating her," he said hoarsely, "and she was still protecting me." He reached out, hesitant, and Claire took his hand. It was an awkward, fragile gesture, but real. The first bridge between ghosts and the living. I watched them together, and for the first time since Anna's death, I felt something I hadn't in years. Completion. When they left, the ring stayed with me. I placed it back in its box, the metal warm against my palm. It had been a weapon once, then a warning, then a key. Now, maybe it could finally be what it was meant to be all along, a symbol of love that endured even when people didn't. Still, as the sun dipped behind the magnolias, I couldn't help whispering to the empty room, "Rest now, Anna. They're finally whole." But the house stayed silent. And sometimes, silence isn't peace. It's the breath before something new begins. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. No whispers, no dreams. Just the sound of the ceiling fan and the soft rhythm of rain against the window. When I woke, the morning light poured in, gentle and gold, and for a few seconds I let myself believe the story was over. But endings are like rivers. They never stop. They only curve. A week after Claire and Ethan met, I received another envelope. Same handwriting, but steadier this time. Inside was a photo. The two of them together in front of the old bridge, smiling. On the back, Claire had written, "You gave me my brother. Thank you. Maybe now she can rest." I placed the photo on my dresser beside the one of Anna, mother and children, side by side. The family she thought she lost finally reunited. For a moment, the past didn't feel so heavy. Still, there was one thing left undone: the ring. It sat on my table in its velvet box, glinting under the morning sun. I had held on to that little circle of gold for more than 3 decades. It had been a secret, a weapon, a curse, and a confession. It had made men crumble and women remember their worth. But now it was only metal, unless I chose what story it would tell next. So that afternoon, I drove to the river. The same river that had swallowed Anna's cries, that had heard Ethan's drunken apologies, that had seen my own silent promises. It shimmered dark and endless, as if holding every secret it had ever been given. I parked near the bridge and walked down the dirt path with the box in my hand. The air smelled like rain and jasmine. My knees protested with every step, but I didn't mind. I had learned that pain, when it has purpose, feels almost holy. When I reached the water, I opened the box. The ring caught the light, flashing for just a second, like a final breath. I whispered, "You've done your duty." Then I bent down and placed it on the surface. The current took it gently, carrying it away, turning until it disappeared under the ripples. I thought I'd feel empty. Instead, I felt lighter. As I stood there, a voice startled me from behind. "Grandma!" I turned. Emma was there, her hair loose, her eyes soft. She smiled faintly. "Ethan told me you might be here." I nodded toward the river. I was saying goodbye. She stepped closer, slipping her arm through mine. "He's different now," she said quietly. "He's trying. He and Claire talk every day. He even started volunteering at a shelter. He says he wants to be the kind of man his mother deserved." I looked at her, at the young woman who had once called my ring a piece of junk. "And you? Are you happy, Emma?" She smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't come from youth but from surviving something. "I think I'm learning what love really means, and it's not about looking perfect for photos." "Good," I said, "because real love always leaves a scar or two. That's how you know it's real." We stood in silence, watching the water twist and shimmer. After a moment, she asked, "What was so special about that ring, Grandma? Why did you hold on to it for so long?" I hesitated, then said softly, "Because it reminded me that love is powerful, but truth is stronger. Sometimes they live together, sometimes they don't. The ring carried both." Emma nodded, thoughtful. "You never told me what the letters inside meant." I smiled. "You'll read about them one day." I've written everything down in my journals. There's one for each of you in the cedar chest under my bed. When I'm gone, open it together. Until then, just live. That's the real inheritance. She hugged me then, really hugged me, the way she hadn't since she was little. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for how I treated you, for calling it junk." I stroked her hair. "It wasn't junk to me, darling, but it was never meant to be yours. It just passed through you like a test." She pulled back, smiling through tears. I think it passed. I chuckled. Maybe. But don't go testing fate again. She's got a long memory. We walked back to the car together, arm in arm. The air was warm, and somewhere a mockingbird sang, its song mixing with the hum of cicadas. It felt like forgiveness, loud and alive. That evening, after Emma left, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea and watched the sunset. The sky burned pink and gold over the trees. I thought of Anna, of Ethan and Claire, of the ring now buried in the river's slow heart. Maybe that's where love belongs. Not on a hand, not in a box, but somewhere it can't be claimed or stolen. Somewhere it keeps moving. As the last light faded, I whispered into the quiet, "It's done, my friend. We kept our promise." And for the first time in years, I felt a breeze brush against my cheek, soft and cool, like a hand I hadn't felt in decades. Anna's hand. The magnolias rustled once, then stilled. The world went perfectly calm. Some stories end with revenge. Mine ended with peace. And that, I think, is the rarest victory of all. If you like the story, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button and write in the comments if something like this has ever happened in your life. I'd love to hear your stories. Thank you for watching.